Most of us have grown up watching the timeless holiday movie Home Alone. Imagine if I told you that perhaps some Home Alone scenarios might actually be terrifying as well as creepy. Yeah, you got that right. Some homes have been the victims of spooky break-ins as well as burglaries that can make it necessary to inspect your doors and windows several times before bed. Let's dive in. Story 1. There was a young man of 23 who still resides with his parents. He was playing basketball in the front yard one day when neither of them was at home. He looked up and noticed a woman standing in front of one of his upstairs windows. Nor his sister nor mother. She was just like any other woman. She may have dipped away from the window when she noticed that he was looking at her. She wasn't there when he went inside and upstairs to check the living room. Then he checked the downstairs, which contained the living room, kitchen, dining room, one bedroom, and additional closets. He investigated every single room he could, including every bedroom, the bathroom, and every closet. Finally, he looked in the basement, but he had little doubt she could be there. There are a few couches, a bar, and 2 closets in the tiny basement. There weren't many places for someone to hide, but he was afraid when he opened the second closet door, because he had no idea where else someone might be hiding in the house. The only unregulated area he could think of was here. He yanked the door open as if someone were ripping off a band-aid, and as he did with the closet before this one, he right away pushed himself into the closet just in case that woman was in there and he would have jumped on her. He was able to push himself into a collection of coats and coat hangers though. He was really confused. He was certain that he had seen the woman. You wouldn't just be able to picture something with such fine detail. He returned to the middle level and shouted loudly to those who were inside the house to leave. He screamed so loud that the next-door neighbor came over and asked if he was okay. Then he informed the neighbor that he had just observed a woman watching him playing basketball from the upper window. He was helped in his search by the neighbor who had just entered. He went to get the basketball from the yard when they failed to find her. Then his neighbor went. He closed all the doors, picked up the phone, and told his parents about his frightful incident. His parents weren't thrilled, but they asked him to make sure nothing was taken or stolen. He actually did that, and fortunately, it appeared that everything that was valuable was still in place. He checked the house one last time for security before going to bed. But it was challenging to get sleep. For obvious reasons, his mind was racing. Most people have experienced having a stranger come to their window while they were home. However, he benefited from his restlessness in this instant for the following reason. Finally, he was beginning to drift away slightly. Then he heard some sounds coming from his opposite side. He had the fan running above him, so the room wasn't completely silent. That's why he failed to turn towards the other side at the first sound he heard. However, the sound was first human-like. She appeared from under his bed as he turned to look at the other side. He shouted so loudly, louder than before, as she stood tall above the bed. He rushed out of his bed, pushed her to the ground and demanded to know her identity while placing his hand around her throat when his doorbell rang. It was once more his neighbor. The tall, dirty-looking woman resisted and scratched at him as he pulled her up from the floor and took her to the front door. He still has 2 scars from her claws on his right arm. He opened his front door to his neighbor again. At this point, he dialed the police. The woman yelled and cursed at his neighbor the entire time they waited for the cops, and she also threatened them. The best way to put it, she looked and acted like meth had currently suffering from withdrawals. One of the policemen recognized the woman right away when they arrived. They have had previous interactions with her numerous times. Conveniently, her name was Karen. It was satisfying to watch her be brought into the back of the police car. He expressed his sincere thanks to his neighbor for coming over so fast to assist. That evening, his thoughts were still racing, but he wasn't totally worried. Story number 2. This occurred while a boy was viewing a horror movie in his living room alone at home. The living room, dining room, and kitchen are all combined into one large room because that area of the house has an open floor plan. His couch is in the center of the room, so as he watches TV from there, a sizable portion of the room is behind him. Therefore, watching a scary movie alone wouldn't be the most pleasant situation for people who are a bit more easily frightened. As he watched in the dark room, with nothing but the light from the TV to cancel the darkness of the room, he found himself glancing over his shoulder a lot. After the film, he decided to go to bed after brushing his teeth and turning out all the lights in the home. About 2 hours passed while he slept. Around 1 a.m. in the morning, he woke up, but at first he wasn't sure why. Then he heard a voice from the floor below. It sounded like his sister. It sounded like she was in the house, so it was not like she was calling for him to open the door. He could still tell it was his sister's voice though he continued to be confused and unable to think clearly. He didn't understand what she was shouting at him. When he entered her bedroom, it was empty. He shouted her name really loudly. In his sister's bedroom, which he had examined and found to be empty, he heard something fall on the ground. Then he returned to his bed, where his phone was, after climbing the stairs once more like a young child. He made several calls to her, but she never answered. He locked his room. He eventually slept off, and next morning, he was awakened by a text message from his sister inquiring as to why he had contacted her at 1 a.m. She replied that she was now staying at her boyfriend's house when he asked her whether she had been home. He went downstairs to her bedroom to see what may have fallen down on the floor, but there was not a single object on the floor that could have made that noise. Because the alternative would be far more horrifying. He wants to think that what he heard at night was a dream. However, he never truly experienced any other hallucinations or sleep difficulties. So, how vividly he heard his sister's voice and that sound in her room really freaks him out. This brings us to the end of this video. Let's meet again with a scary video. Thanks for staying to the end of this one, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and tell us what you think about this video down in the comments section.